Hello, Kvec. Welcome back to the Holler Broadcasting Studio. We have a very special visitor again today. As I told you guys a few weeks ago when we started these webcasts, is that we're meeting up with people that are going to be good resources for you and that have access to materials for you, especially as we implement the new standards that we keep talking about. Today, we are visiting with Claire Gwaltney. She is with the Kentucky Historical Society, and she's going to answer some questions that have come from teachers all along the way, and I have put them into three much simpler forms so we can do this quickly so you guys can listen to this as you set up your classroom, grade papers, get that cup of coffee and relax for a minute. So Claire, first of all, welcome to the KVEC Holler Studios.
Hi, Kim. Thank you for having me, and hello to all the KVEC teachers out there.
Awesome. We're very excited to have you guys because one question that I've consistently gotten as teachers are looking at the standards and we're deconstructing and planning and establishing scope and sequence and everything, teachers are always saying, oh my gosh, there's that Kentucky Strand. So the first question I want to ask you today is why include the Kentucky Strand within the Kentucky Academic Standards for Social Studies? Why was that important?
You know, it's so important, not just for students, but for all people to understand their local and their state history. And we are in an ever-increasing global society. So I think it's very, very important for young people in Kentucky to understand how Kentucky history fits into the national and the global history narrative.
I think you're right. I think that's one thing, especially with some of the local history projects that some of our teachers in our region have worked on. They've discovered that, especially, and I want to give a big shout out, and I will definitely have to tag her in the email when I send everything out. Debbie Napier in Harlan County just recently completed an innovation grant project in which she and her students developed a virtual reality tour of Lynch, Kentucky. And as they were doing the research and as we were working within the data and information and everything, something that I found that was incredibly interesting and informative for me was that Lynch was such an important part of the war effort with not only World War I, but also World War II. And you really realize that we were crucial, at a very important time in history. So we were definitely part of that larger narrative nationally. And that was something that I did not realize, that it wasn't just that this was a coal town, we mine coal and we sent it off. We were really important to the whole scope of everything.
Yeah. And probably the only thing cooler than students learning about their own local history is students and teachers who then teach others about their local history and who are teaching others why a town like Lynch is important in our nation in a certain period of time. That's so completely awesome.
Yeah, and it was. And that's something too, for those of you that are watching this and you want to go look at that, it's on, of course, theholler.org. When you go in there, type in Portal 31 virtual tour, and that will take you to the Ross Point Elementary project, and it's incredible. It's still under construction. There's still many things that are going to be changing within that, and so stay tuned. So that being said, also I want to let everybody know today, usually they're used to being able to see the person that we're talking to. We ran into some technical difficulties, but because so many people were having questions about the Kentucky resources for the Kentucky Strand, I wanted to hurry and get Claire on as quickly as possible rather than wait. So we want to apologize to everyone that the technical difficulty, but we're flexible as teachers, if anything else. So you guys are going to go with this. So let's go to question number 2 then. How has the Kentucky Historical Society answered the call or the need for teachers as they implement the CAS?
That is a great question. It's something we're certainly addressing and still trying to figure out how to address since everything seems to be moving so rapidly. So at this point, I would like to share with you my screen and show you where we're starting to tackle the new standards.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I would like you to visit history.ky.gov, which is the homepage to the Kentucky Historical Society. And then if you go on to the right side of your screen to where this blue arrow caret is and click on that, you can choose the top choice, which is for educators. And this is a hub that we've put together to make things easier for you and hopefully streamline your engagement with us. So some easy to click on links for big things like field trips, National History Day, all these different things that we offer. And then we have this beautiful new box about KAS connections and other educator resources. So if you click here, the very first thing you're going to see is something about the new standards. And what we've started to do with these 3 grades are create cheat sheets, if you will. So as we pull this up in a PDF form, this is grade 4. The topic is migration and settlement. And here we list each of the standards related to Kentucky for government, economics, geography, and history. And then we have some suggested primary sources to use for each of those standards. So this is very down and dirty. So far we have cheat sheets for grades 4, 5, and 8. More are coming. We've tried to make these very short and concise. So you get the title of the document, a little bit of context, what it's about, some questions that might spur a conversation with your students, and then of course a link to our online catalog so you can see this in a larger format, you can download it, you can zoom in. If your students have Chromebooks, they can look at this on their own, they can identify various parts of the state, etc.
Now, is this going to be compatible with Google Classroom as well, especially if they put the links and everything in?
That's a great question. I don't know. I would love for you guys to check this out and tell me. One of the things I would love for you to do is to take our brief survey. And when I say brief survey, I think it's 6 or 7 questions.
Yeah, it's brief. It is brief.
It's super brief. And give us your feedback. Is this helpful? Is this the format that you need it in? Is it compatible with, if you're using Google Classroom in your classroom, is it compatible with that? Mm-hmm. I would really like to make these documents flexible and shape them to your needs. But in order to do that, I really need to get feedback from you guys.
You do. And I think one thing I want to give a big shout out to as well is that not only are these materials compatible for grade 4, 5, 8, they're also compatible for grade 9, 12, because especially when you look at the curriculum, because, you know, many of these can be taken right into the civics classroom or be taken into that history classroom when you're discussing, for instance, migration and settlement. We still talk about that in high school. And it would be nice to bring in that Kentucky Strand, especially for those students that, because they are in high school, they've never been exposed to this.
Yeah.
So that would be great to bring that up as well. So it still applies 9, 12.
Yeah, and we will definitely be coming out with some resources for all the other grades that are not listed here. And hopefully we'll start to get some of those up online soon.
That is great. So the final question for everybody to kind of listen to, because the whole idea behind these webcasts, Claire, is just, like I said earlier, for somebody to grab that cup of coffee or sit down and grade those papers and just kind of listen to this. Of course, in this case, they're going to not want to miss a second of it because they're going to want to see everything that you're showing. But the last question I really want us to look at, what are some other ways that Kentucky Historical Society can help teachers? Like, for instance, what are some other things besides the CAS support that you guys have?
Right. Well, if we go back to this For Educators page, like I said, this is a huge hub where we've tried to gather all our K-12 information in one place for ease of use. So, you know, if you wanted to make the trek from Eastern Kentucky, we would love to have you. All our field trip information is here. If you are interested in us coming to you with our National History Day program, or for our younger learners, History Smarts, we would love to travel to your communities and help you manage those programs. We have traveling trunks that we mail out to schools around the state. We have a junior historical society where kids, like those kids who compiled all that information about Lynch, they kind of take history into their own hands and run with it. And this is all in a hub right here. You will also be able to access, from this KAS Connections page, links into our online catalogs. So if you want to access items from our artifacts catalog, maybe you need something.
Can you please show them, and this is just, of course, show the Lynch thing, but I would love for them to see the Abraham Lincoln pocket watch.
Oh yeah, sure. So I just typed in Lynch, and apparently we have 8 artifacts related to Lynch. Another great way, maybe not Lynch.
Yeah. Well, I think also, and that Lynch, what's really interesting is that the city of Lynch, there's a discussion about how the city got its name, and there were some discussions around that. So that would be something that would be very interesting to come out, kind of later. But yeah, definitely show them that pocket watch really quickly.
But I just typed in Lincoln and it doesn't pop up right away. So let's do and watch.
There it is.
Here is the Lincoln pocket watch. So if you were teaching your students about Lincoln during the Civil War, this is an actual pocket watch that he carried with him in the early 1860s. So a wonderful artifact, very tangible, very personal, that may help your students connect with history on a different level. And in addition to our artifact catalog, we also have one of all our 2D items, with I think about over 50 or 60,000 items. And so if we type in Lynch, Kentucky here, hopefully we'll get something a little bit, a postcard, a scene in Lynch, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
So here we have a postcard. We know that it's circa 1915.
Okay, see, what's fascinating about that for me, and this is what I love about this, and you guys can see on this, you can see how much coal, for one thing, is going out. You can see that smokestack in the background, which at one time was the tallest in the world for a significant amount of time. But when you look at the houses and you realize, and this is just a very small picture of the city of Lynch, you can realize just how many people live there.
Yeah, and a great opportunity to tick those boxes when your students need to compare the past with the present, examine change over time. If this is your community, how has it changed over time? And we're very fortunate in that we have a huge collection specifically of postcards from the turn of the century from all over Kentucky. So very likely you could type in your town or your county and pull up a primary source like this one to use it in your classroom.
That is great. Can you go to, before we sign off here really quickly, this is the last thing, can you show them the civil rights oral histories that are out there? Because I know that some, especially junior American history is going to be would want to use that, and I think that would be a tremendous help for them.
So coming back to, so right here, documents and images is what you would click. You get this page. I'm gonna click on the oral history and audio visual materials. And I'm just gonna type in civil rights and see what we get. And so here are all these oral histories. So for example, we'll click on one of them and it looks like here, if we click on this link, we'll get maybe an audio file. Okay, so we have a transcript. We have an audio clip of the history. Sometimes it's even videotaped. I was looking at one with Georgia Davis Powers the other day and it was videoed, which was really cool. And those are all right here.
Wow. I think that's something that teachers really don't realize sometimes, that what you guys really have down there. The thing for me about the pocket watch is it's the pocket watch that he carried during those years as president.
So cool.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's just such a connection, I think, for us. And to us, Abraham Lincoln will always be, our native son, even though he goes to, Indiana and then Illinois.
He belongs to Kentucky.
He does. To us, he does.
Yes.
Claire, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for showing these materials. If anyone has any questions or anything like that for you, what is your email address?
I would love for people to contact me with questions, comments, suggestions, and you can reach me at claire.gwaltney@ky.gov.
You guys, if you have any questions or anything, always you can contact me. But why contact me if you have a question about Kentucky? Go straight to the source. You guys have a great day, and we're going to holler back at you later.